Thank you so much, Logan, for joining us here at the Dwelling Show. I'm super excited to have you on the show today. Just a little bit about Logan. So can you just tell the Dwell listeners kind of what you've been up to lately and kind of what you're working on?
Yeah, sure. And thank you so much. It's super, super awesome to be on the show. I mean, I listen to your podcast every day and, get in the mood. And it's just like great to have another young dude that's out there and talking about multifamily and bigger investments. There's not a lot of young guys doing that. So I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, I started investing from scratch a little over 2 years ago. I'm going into my third year now. I came through, that Clever Investor, so like an online wholesaling teaching company. And I jumped into wholesaling, and I was kind of like the crazy dude that was like day one full-time. I was in sales before, so I just dropped my other sales job and just started figuring out how to do wholesaling. Did my first deal in like 60 days, small one, really tiny one. And then I just parlayed it. Done like 50 wholesale deals at this point and started apartment building investing in my first year as an investor. I just successfully flipped that first apartment building and I bought another 20 unit apartment building. And I'm already almost done stabilizing that one, probably going to resell that. And I raised, partners and capital in order to buy bigger deals now this year. So this year I'm trying to buy 200 units. And yeah, just a bunch of crazy stuff happens every day, and that's my life.
I love it, Logan. A bunch of things going on there. So first, you jumped on a kind of a coaching or training program with Clever Investor. I know him very well on Instagram. And you started wholesaling. So you did your first deal and then you went up to 50. Then after you got to that point, then you went into multifamily. So let's kind of rewind back a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Why real estate?
It was really weird for me, man. Like I started out in the insurance business. At 18 years old, I had my license, and that was kind of something that my family had done. And I just realized really quickly it wasn't something that I liked. It was really boring to me. It was just something I knew how to do. And meanwhile, I would watch those shows on TV about like, selling real estate or flipping houses and all these different things. And I would just go through life, man, just doing my job but kind of fantasizing about that stuff. And eventually I kind of was like, I feel like I would kind of be really good at that. I'm good at negotiating and with people, and I'm really good with numbers. I read a book by Manny, Khoshbin, who was somebody that I just idolized on Instagram. And I read his book, and I was like, man, I love this guy. What does he do? Turns out he's a commercial real estate investor. And, he built this massive portfolio. And that book changed everything for me, like as far as the way I perceived buildings. And I just thought it was so fascinating. So eventually stopped creating excuses about not having enough money. And found a way to start investing for free or for, I can't buy a house, but how can I make money as an investor? I knew I didn't want to be a realtor, and that led me to wholesaling, and then wholesaling led me to apartments, and now I'm here. So
something came up just in my mind as you were talking. So you said you didn't have any money, but then you figured out a way to basically still kickstart your career in real estate, right? And you didn't want to be an agent. So first question is, how did you, from a mindset perspective, right? How did you tell yourself like, hey, I have no money, I have nothing in my account or whatever, I don't have much, but I'm still going to make money on real estate. I'm following this guy on Instagram. I read his book. Everything makes sense. I can do this. How did you get yourself and your mind to that level?
I think that answer is best with Google, man. I mean, it's like, I got rid of my own excuses by Googling. I just kind of was like, there has to be a way where you can participate as an investor, but not actually have the money to buy a house, right? And so I found out about, the no money down investing, which is technically wholesaling, what everyone's talking about. And I just learned that process and learned the marketing and what it took to get those deals. And, just went from there, really. I learned how to do it, and I did spend my money I had like $7,000 to my name at that point. I spent $5,000 of it on education. And at that point, it was basically like either do a deal or you're going to run out of money in 2 months because I had to pay my bills. So I personally believe people succeed when they're put in situations where they don't have any other option other than to succeed. So I put myself in that situation where it was either just you succeed or you're screwed. That was it. So
that's interesting. So before we get to the actual tactic that you, or should I say the step you took, which was wholesaling, for you to actually participate, as you said, in the real estate investing game.
Yeah.
My question was, why didn't you want to be an agent?
Why don't I want to be an agent?
Mm-hmm.
I just saw the power of being an investor and the power of being the person that has the equity and controls the deal and the property. And I just saw agents as like a typical salesperson and like a horse and pony show type thing. Now I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You can make a lot of money like that, but I wanted to play Monopoly for a living, right? I wanted to own the stuff. And once I understood how they all made money, I'm telling you, it's just going anywhere, looking at buildings, everything's totally different in your brain, right? Like I'm sure before you ever found out about how real estate made money, you would go to a McDonald's or go to a mall and just see it as a store, right?
Right.
You never look at that stuff the same once you understand that there's a landlord behind all of that, and he's getting paid for these people to be there.
Right. It is fascinating, isn't it? The other thing that some of our dual listeners might be thinking is, wait, hold on. Did this guy did he just say he spent $5,000 on what? On education? Who does that?
Yeah. So that was like, you get a mentor, and they teach you, how to do, the process from A to Z, and they kind of hold your hand. But really the information itself is only $300. It's not very expensive. You can learn everything there. But then when you get into application, sometimes it pays to have somebody to say, okay, do this, do that, and you can get things going a lot quicker. I saw it as you could easily, and you probably know this yourself, dude, you could spend $5,000 in marketing mistakes like that. And it's just better to just take someone's advice to say this works, this doesn't work. And my strategy's changed a bunch of different times in my journey too. So it's kind of always evolving.
So you went through this mentorship program and the education as well, and you came out on the other side, wholesaling 50 deals. Yep. Did that really help you? Did the mentorship really help?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I won't say that it's not possible to do it without a mentor. And I think you'll also create your own mentors as you go. Like I have mentors now that I created, that I didn't pay for. But yeah, it was definitely valuable. It worked for me. It helped me get going a lot faster, and I was doing it full time. Like I wanted to replace my income. So I needed it to go quick. I didn't need to sit there and wait for 6 months to maybe make money. Like I needed to make money now. So that was my...
Gotcha. So somebody's listening to this, maybe somebody like you, Logan, that they're in a place where they don't have any money, but they do want to get started in real estate, and they're trying to figure out, how can I get started too? So what was the first thing that you did? I mean, we know you went on your mentorship program, but what was the first thing that you did, if you can rewind back to that time?
So, I mean, I guess the first thing I did was obviously I bought not the mentor, but the training, which was $300, and which is basically just the information, right? And that teaches you the whole entire concept of like what wholesaling is and how it's performed, and basically the art of selling contracts, which is all you're doing, signing contracts, whatever. And then, obviously, you start your entity, you form your entity, and you can do bootstrap marketing methods that are very, very inexpensive or free. What I always tell people that say, oh, I don't have a lot of money. Well, the flip side of that coin is you have an abundance of time. right? And your time is, what you have less of when you have more money, right? So you just need to use your time to do the things that other people don't want to do. And that's how you can create your first opportunity in real estate.
Wow, fantastic. I really, really like that. So you got started. You started assigning contract. You started wholesaling. First and foremost, for some of our dual listeners that might not know this, what is wholesaling?
Wholesaling is essentially, I always refer to it as an art form because it really is an art form. It is getting a property, preferably off market, directly to the seller that's not listed, that is distressed and suitable for an investor, like a fix and flipper or a landlord that buys properties with cash or hard money. And you're going to negotiate that property under contract with what's called a purchase and sale agreement with the seller. And you're going to negotiate that at a discount from its market value and with the amount of money it needs in repairs. And then essentially what you do is you sell the rights to your purchase contract to another cash buyer, which is typically going to be a flipper or a landlord buyer or something like that. And then you collect what's called an assignment fee, which is paid at closing, like a normal transaction would go. Or you can also double close the property. So you basically carve out margins based on crunching numbers and your ability to negotiate a good sound deal with the seller of the property. And
fantastic.
That's what wholesaling is in a nutshell.
Sweet. So you said crunching numbers, right? So can you pick one of your favorite? You've done 50, right? Did you do those 50s in a year, by the way? I'm just curious.
That was 2 years. So
in 2 years.
25 to 30, each year. But at the end of my first year is when I jumped into my apartment building, which I predominantly managed. And so that took my eye off the ball from the wholesale stuff. So I kind of slowed down a little bit from wholesaling because I wanted to learn this whole apartment thing, which I've.
Okay, so that's, I really want us to touch on the wholesaling though. So give us one of your favorite deals. How did you find it, and what was the story behind it?
Okay, so I'll give you a deal like we just did one. We're closing this week. How about that?
Let's do it.
All right, so we cold called pre-foreclosures with equity. The list, you can get it off Realty Track. Everybody has access to it. We get people that have a minimum of 35% equity or more, and they're in, it's not foreclosed on, which means they still can sell the property, but the bank is trying to foreclose. So we cold call these people. We get the owner's information through, there's multiple different skip tracing stuff you can use. But you can use reiskip.com, put your addresses and people in. We cold call them. We basically say, hey, listen, you're in pre-foreclosure. We can help you save your credit, the whole spiel, right? Got the deal under contract. Basically, this lady wanted $3,000 above her mortgage balance. So she gets $3,000. We locked it up for, what did we get that deal for? We're in that deal for $51,000 is the payoff. And we owe her $3,000, so we're in for $54,000. Assigned it at $72,000 and closed this week.
Fantastic. And typically, what will be the ARV, the after repair value for the investor on the other end?
That's a 150 house.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Yep.
So
150,000. Yeah.
Fantastic. Congratulations on that. That's really huge.
I never went there. The seller doesn't live there. It's vacant. I have a business partner up in that part of Florida. This house is six hours from me. So I never even saw it. I don't even think I've seen pictures.
Wow. Fascinating. Fascinating stuff. So you've been doing a ton of these deals, and then something changed and you were like, maybe I should start doing multifamily. So before we even jump to the multifamily stuff, how did you go from wholesaling to going bigger? What was that? What was your process in your mind? What was that mindset shift like for you?
Well, I like to say, like, I got into the apartment game. It was kind of by accident. Like, I didn't seek it out. A deal came up, and I was just being my typical wholesaler, middleman self, where I'm like, hey, where can I carve a margin on this, right? But what you realize when you wholesale, and when you wholesale in volume, number one, it is a very stressful business. There are a lot of moving parts. And deals fall apart more often than not. You have deals that close, but you have a lot that fall apart as well. And I realized this to be kind of like a rat on the wheel chase. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to wake up every month and have to go make my money again. Every single month, I got to go find a deal. I got to find more deals. And I just was like, after about a year and a half, I was like, man, I need to start figuring out how to build real wealth. And, I'm not saying there's not successful wholesalers out there, but if you're looking at the guy he's worth $100 million, he's not a wholesaler, dude. That dude owns buildings and offices and apartment buildings and, strip malls. That's what that guy owns. He's not trying to wholesale houses every month. And I just want to be like the people I constantly want to strive for. So that was my mental realization.
I love it. So you got the mental realization that, hey, I want to create essentially long-term wealth, right? Yeah. I don't want to have to wake up and try to figure out I can make a quick 20, 25 spread on this deal.
Right.
So when you made that decision, did you take any technical steps similar to the steps you took? And, when you started your wholesaling journey, educating yourself on multifamily, or did you just kind of jump right in?
Yeah. So the deal, it was kind of one of those things where the deal happened before I tried to get the deal. And I'm just an opportunist at heart. So if I see an opportunity, I just figure out how to make it work. And then I would say before we closed, I educated myself very quickly on, multifamily and how it works. And then being an owner, I did more and more learning as far as the power of apartment buildings and multifamily and where the money is in that scheme. So I kind of learned it by doing it. I didn't, seek it out, but once I had one, I absorbed more and more information.
Gotcha. Fantastic. So like you said, deal kind of just came to you, fell in your lap. So can you tell us a little bit about how how you got the deal? How did you fall in your lap, and how did you fund it essentially? So how did you find it, and how did you fund it?
I know. So this is, you're going to love, actually, most people I tell this hate this because the first deal was an MLS deal.
Wow.
Everybody gets so mad at that. They're like, what? Nobody finds deals on the MLS. But guys, they're out there, It's you just got to have either yourself looking or somebody paying attention. And this was a classic case of a property that was sitting on the MLS, and it was with a really bad realtor. So if properties sit on the MLS and they don't refresh them, it just sits, and people don't hardly even know it's there, So anyways, this is what happened. My buddy was a realtor, and he had just sold one of our flips that we'd remodeled. And he kept calling me. He's like, man, there's this deal in this MLS, but it's an apartment building, and I don't know if you have any landlord buyers. And I was like, honestly, I don't have time for that. I'm trying to wholesale houses, So I blew him off for probably 2 months. And finally, I just got sick of him calling. So I was like, you know what? Let me see what I can do. Called one of my investors up that I just sold a property to. I was like, didn't you say something you were trying to buy more rentals? He's like, yeah. And he's like, well, I'm like, dude, I got this 7-unit apartment building. My buddy keeps calling me about it. Do you want to look at it? And so I told him the number. He's like, yeah, it seems feasible. So anyways, we go there to look at it. We're going through this, and we're like, man, this is just really bad tenants, but the building is great. There's nothing wrong with the asset. And we're sitting there scratching our heads, looking at this deal going, where's the crap here? There's got to be something wrong with this building, Price is decent, what's going on? Well, anyways, he turns to me and he says, listen, you don't have it under contract, so you can't charge me an assignment fee. And I said, yep, that's correct. So he's like, but how would you like to own 50% of the property? And he's like, you brought it to me. He's like, would you like to help me run the property and do the deal with me? And if you come up with 50% of the money for the down payment, I'll get the loan and you can own half the property with me. And so I turned to him and I was like, I would really like to do that. That sounds awesome. So he's like, well, can you come up with, we needed like 32 grand to come up with. And I was like, I didn't have it. And I was like, but I will find it. I will make sure that I get it and we'll have it. Don't worry. So we negotiated the price a little bit better and started going through the loan process, which I'd never been through before. And that's essentially how the first deal transpired.
Fantastic. Really fascinating story. So how much did you guys take that one down for? And how much did you, because you said you flipped that. What was the exit price?
Okay. So it was a 13-month hold, which in that time we did quite a few things. It started at $289 was the list price. We ended up getting it for $250, $250, which is about $35K or so a door. It was 7 units, all concrete block, individually metered, electric, and really a good asset. So then what we did, the units didn't need any cosmetic stuff. They were good to go. I can get market rent. There was a lot of month-to-month leases. So day one, I raised rents to what I knew the market was, which was $750. These are all one bedrooms. And what I did in that building was I got all new tenants. Everyone paid $750 throughout the time. I converted the water meters to sub-meters, like individual water meters. And then when I leased it with new tenants, I put all the new tenants are paying all the utilities. So it's a true net $750. And that cut $600 a month in expenses off of the expense sheet.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and the crazy thing is, what people don't understand is a lot of these plumbing companies that do these water meter conversions, they offer their own financing and it's 0% for 12 months. So I literally paid to borrow the money from the savings in the rent roll to do the metering of the water. So it literally cost me nothing by the grand scheme of things.
Wow.
But as you know, my NOI increased by $7,000 a year, which is pretty significant on the equity side.
Fantastic. So
did
you guys flip it?
Added along. We did. We flipped it. We held it for a year, so we went to capital gains taxation instead of ordinary income, and we flipped it out at $377,500 net to seller, so we didn't pay any closing costs or anything. And we cash flowed about $3,000 a month net cash after debt services every month while we held.
That's a fantastic deal. Congratulations again, Logan. That's a really, really good deal.
It was good. Yeah, it was. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in that over, managing and, dealing with some crazy tenants. I had some drug addict issue things to deal with. So, but I learned so much, tons.
So real quickly, you had a partner, right, on this deal. Yeah. There's a lot of talk about partnerships.
Yeah.
I mean, this was almost like a unique situation, but how do you deal with a partner? I don't really want to say how do you find a partner, because you kind of told us how, this partnership came about, but how did you manage that relationship?
It was crazy, right? Like, this might be like one of my hidden skills. I'm pretty good at relationships, but I think the biggest thing is, in my opinion, and this partner came to me afterwards and said, man, I have had a handful of partners. I've never enjoyed a partnership as much as I've enjoyed this one. And not once did we have any arguments. Did we say, this person's doing more than the other person? The reality is two things. One person has good skills, play to those skills, and the other person has good skills, that person does their good skills. And the second thing is just realize it's about getting the task done. It's not about who does it or who's doing more or less. It's about making progress and getting something done in a timely manner. You both of you have mutual benefit by things getting done and progressing. And there's no sense in figuring out who's doing more or less, like you're both in it together type of thing. So that was the biggest thing for me. He handled all the books, all of the cash flow, making sure all the vendors were paid, which is stuff I'm typically really bad at. And I handled going there, coordinating vendors, leasing all the units, signing all the new leases, making sure they get turned over, and making sure the tenants pay and the money comes in, which those are the things I'm really good at. And he's really good at all the back end stuff. So it worked out really, really great.
Fantastic. So you did an awesome job on this first multi-family deal. Not a lot of people can say that. So I guess you caught the bug, right? The multi-family bug that I suffer from too. So I can totally relate.
Like, dude, once you see that, like the value you can pick up equity-wise from driving NOI, which might just be changing these little things. I mean, dude, I'd have to flip 100 houses a year. You know what I'm saying? And he's nodding his head, smiling, like, yeah, don't tell people that because we don't want them to know.
Don't let them know. Shoosh.
Yeah, so let them keep wholesaling. You know?
So you caught the bug and then you did your second deal, your second multifamily deal.
Yeah,
how did that go?
I bought the second one before I had finished selling the first one. And I got into that one for no money. The first one I got into for 10 grand of my own cash. I borrowed a private loan from one of my other flipper investors, who's one of my best mentors. He gave me the other 22 grand. And then I paid him back with the cash flow and stuff like that. And then my big clip was like when we resold. Now the second deal, that guy that lent me the 22 grand, he put up all the money on the 20 unit. I found the deal and negotiated the deal. And then he put up all the money and then I run the whole entire thing A to Z. So I was kind of able to leverage the first deal and say, listen, here's what I did. I know what I'm doing. Here's the value I created. And now let me present you an option where you can put some money here. And this is what I think we can make. And he was like, yep, I trust you. You know, you paid me back. I trust your judgment. You know what you're doing. Here you go. And we're 50-50 partners on that deal. He's kind of the capital guy and I'm kind of the run the deal guy.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And you guys are you still holding on to that 20 or have you flipped that yet?
Yeah, so we closed on that in like mid-November of last year, and I had 8 tenants. I have 18 tenants now, and so I have 2 that are getting renovated this week and will be filled by March 1st, and then it'll be fully occupied.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So we're definitely dwelling into the quick rounds. I would love to keep hearing your stories. It's just amazing, very inspiring. So these are going to be quick questions, quick answers. You ready, sir?
Let's do it.
First question. What makes you, Logan, unique? What is that differentiating factor that separates you from the next guy or the next girl?
Wow. I think I really enjoy great connections with people. I'm really relentless and I'm very animated, original. I'm not textbook at all. I'm very goofy and weird. So it's kind of unique being in the investment space.
I love it. I mean, you reached out to me on Instagram and, it was really nice to connect. And yeah, so you definitely have that skill. I love that. Next question. Yeah. Next question. What was the last book that you read and what was the one nugget or the one thing you learned from that book?
Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. It's a classic. It's an old book. The one nugget I really like: live your life in daily compartments. You can only live each single day, even down to the minute in the moment. This is, you know, we live so much in the future and sometimes we live in the past. It's always great to remind yourself that like the only thing you need to conquer is one day at a time.
I love it. I haven't heard of that book. Thank you for that word.
It's a mental thing. It's not a money book. It's not a, you know, success book. It's literally just about like the clarity of your thoughts and, you know, if you worry about stuff, how to eliminate that.
I love it. Last question. So you've got your 20 unit deals, you're flipping like 50 houses. You know, I've seen your Instagram page. You've got a bunch of stuff going on. What do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? I just got engaged, so I have a fiance now.
Congratulations, that is huge.
It took forever, but I got it, and so I really like to spend time with her. I have a dog. I love spending time with my dog, and we really like, man, good food, like foodie stuff, you know, like that. And I'm an artist, so I like to do, you know, painting and drawing type stuff.
Awesome.
So and talk on podcasts.
Apparently, right?
That's my fun.
Nice. So before I let you go, Logan, if there's a dual listener listening to this and they're like, wow, I like this Logan guy, like I want to connect with Logan, where can people go to find you? Where you're most active?
Definitely. I'm most active on Instagram for sure. You can follow me at Mogul in the Making. I try and document pretty much the journey of what me and you kind of face on a daily basis of, you know, trying to go big and buy these things as a real estate entrepreneur and mogul. So it's an entertaining journey, which I'm sure you're familiar with. So definitely check it out.
Awesome. Well, Logan, it's been an absolute pleasure. I learned a ton from you. I think it's really cool what you're doing in that space. Definitely will be watching your story and seeing how things turn out. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, for real.